We wanted to bring Taylor on. She's been a friend of TMZ Live for a long, long time, and she is back with us. Taylor, welcome back to TMZ Live.
Thanks for having me.
So, talk to us about what's behind this. On its face, it looks like you're saying there should be open season on some of these CEOs.
Absolutely not. So let me just be super clear. No, we should not murder CEOs. No, we should not go around shooting people in the street. But I think what's really missing in all of these conversations is context. When you see the entire internet, left and right, united around one thing, and that is celebrating, I hate to say it too, the death of a healthcare CEO, you have to ask why. And I don't think that has been discussed at all. There's no discussions of the systemic cruelty in our healthcare system or the fact that thousands of Americans die because CEOs like this one and others deny essential life-saving care to Americans. And I think that's that's where this anger is coming from. And of course, people are going to get a little carried away and celebrate, but they're celebrating because it feels like a victory. It feels like somebody stood up to this barbaric, evil, cruel, violent system for once. And of course, he matched it with violence, which, again, we are not condoning murder here. Okay. That is not the solution to this. But I do think that a lot of people, it's got people talking.
And I hear what you're saying about getting people talking, but I want to go back, Taylor, to that. And I know you later in the day you said, look, what I want here is a campaign of peaceful letter writing to these CEOs. But the statement, and I just want to put it up there one more time and see how you feel about it, because this is the one that did sound like you were calling for violence. You said, and people wonder why we want these executives dead.
Yes, people do. I am speaking to the sentiment. People do want these executives dead. If you have
But you
watched,
said we want them dead, and I guess that's...
I mean, look, I'm gonna say I'm with the people in the sense that if you have watched a loved one die because insurance has denied them life-saving essential health care, it is natural to wish that the people who run those systems would suffer the same fate as your loved one. And millions of people across America have had this experience. So yes, am I, when I say, do I wish someone dead, is that advocating for them to be killed? No, of course not. But am I going to shed tears or have a lot of empathy for somebody that has facilitated the deaths of thousands of innocent Americans through intentionally denying them coverage? I am not going to, weep over it. I do think that loss of life is a tragedy. I'm very against death generally, as a principle. But I think, again, why do we mourn certain deaths and condone other deaths of innocent, vulnerable people?
Yeah, I get that. From a different angle, when you look at this, do you think his death,
we should say his murder.
His murder.
Which is different from dying from an illness, which
Right.
is horrible and should not...
I would say UnitedHealth has murdered people, just to be clear. I would say UnitedHealth has murdered thousands of Americans by denying them coverage, life-saving coverage.
And by the way, I get your point. I do get your point on that. Do you think that his murder, Brian Thompson's murder, is a good thing in terms of what it's done to bring all of this to the forefront?
I don't think, here's the reality. This is something that is clearly affecting millions of people's lives. It has made the media and politicians pay attention. I think it's a tragedy that a murder is what is forcing people in power to pay attention to this issue that is affecting everyone's lives. Again, one CEO shouldn't have to be murdered for them to care about the murder of tens of thousands of other innocent Americans, right? That should be national news as well. So yeah, I would love if it was not a murder. I would love if we just had a more just system and politicians and the media paid attention to the violence that happens every day at the hands of these insurance companies.
Do you view this almost like a revolution where sometimes there is that kind of collateral damage, which may be the death of some of these people, but are you viewing this kind of like a revolution?
I think a lot of people online are. I think that's deeply concerning because, again, we don't want a violent revolution in this country. We want nonviolent change. We want systemic change. Now, often systemic change only comes through violence when you look historically. However, it is about to be 2025. We have the internet. I do think that the internet gives people a voice. And I think hopefully the media and people in power can look at this outpouring of sentiment and see, this is a problem in society. This is something we should address before we see further violence. Because we don't want violence. The insurance system is violent enough. We want to stop violence here, and we want to save lives.
All right. Wow, this is fascinating. This is just, the reaction has just been fascinating, and you never disappoint, Taylor.
You are always starting a conversation.
I want to get people talking about these issues.
Well, you have.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Thanks, Taylor.
Taylor, thanks as always.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. I did not expect this morning
there's
that
different
it would take this
there's
turn.
the conversations, she's right, about the reactions, but there is also more conversation about what's
Healthcare.
happening in healthcare.
Absolutely.